The year is 2026, and the world has become a theater of endless apologies. We are living in an era where strength is often mistaken for a crime, and where the act of standing your ground is viewed as a radical departure from the norm. We are surrounded by a culture that encourages us to walk on eggshells, to constantly look over our shoulders, and to offer up hollow regrets to an invisible jury of digital shadows. It is a world of shifting sand, where principles are traded for the temporary safety of social validation. But if you look back at the cinematic and moral landscape of the 20th century, you see a figure that stands like a granite mountain against this rising tide of fragility. You see the Duke. John Wayne lived by a code that was forged in a much harsher reality, a code that has become almost illegal in the hypersensitive world of 2026. Never apologize, mister. It's a sign of weakness. To the modern ear, conditioned by decades of emotional domesticity, this sounds like a dangerous arrogance. But to the sovereign architect of the new frontier, it is the ultimate declaration of psychological and moral independence. John Wayne wasn't talking about being a bully or refusing to learn from a genuine mistake. He was talking about moral conviction. He was talking about the internal architecture of a man who has done the work, examined his intent, and decided that his path is his own. He understood that once you start apologizing for your existence to a crowd that doesn't share your values, you have already surrendered your sovereignty. The Duke's legacy is a reminder that a man's worth is not a democracy. It is a monarchy where his own conscience sits on the throne. In the high-voltage environment of 2026, the system desperately wants you to be apologetic. It wants you to apologize for your strength, for your heritage, for your drive to lead, and for your refusal to fit into the neatly labeled boxes of the global grid. It wants you to be a managed individual, predictable, and easily swayed by the winds of public opinion. But the new generation is looking at the Iron Duke and seeing a different way to be human. They are realizing that every time you offer a performance of regret to appease a digital mob that has no stake in your life, you are chipping away at the very foundation of your character. The Duke's philosophy was built on the concept of internal integration. It is the state where there is no gap between what you believe and how you act. If you are certain of your mission, and if your actions are the honest byproduct of that mission, then an apology is not just unnecessary, it is a lie. This is the Unapologetic Protocol. It is the refusal to let the external world define the borders of your worth. As we look into the private records of John Wayne's life, we find a man who was often a target of intense criticism and social pressure, yet he never once bent his knee to the fashion of the day. He understood that critics are like dust on the trail. They are a sign that you are moving, but they are ultimately irrelevant to the destination. For the architects of the new frontier, this is the most vital survival lesson. Your integrity is not for sale, and your path does not require a signature of approval from those who are too afraid to walk their own. As we move deeper into the Duke's way of life, we uncover the engine that drove his refusal to apologize: radical decisiveness. In the year 2026, most individuals are paralyzed by the analysis of choice. They are afraid to make a move because they might be judged, they might be wrong, or they might lose their place in the social hierarchy. This indecision is the true father of the apology culture. When you are uncertain of your path, you are forced to constantly negotiate and compromise. But John Wayne operated on the principle of absolute commitment. Once a decision was made, whether it was on the set of the Alamo or in the middle of a political storm, it was final. He moved with the momentum of a locomotive because he knew that in a world of cowards, the man who acts with certainty is king. He didn't ask for permission to take up space. He simply occupied it with the weight of a man who knew his purpose. This is the power of command presence that the new generation is now desperately trying to reclaim. They are studying the Duke not to imitate his walk, but to understand his mental velocity. They are learning that a leader who never looks back is a leader that people are willing to follow through the darkest storms of the 21st century. Wait, before you think this is just about being stubborn, you must understand the biological reality of this stance. Human nervous systems are naturally wired to gravitate toward the individual who is the most certain of their direction. In the chaotic information landscape of 2026, certainty is the ultimate currency. When the Duke refused to apologize, he wasn't just defending an action. He was maintaining a signal of stability. He was telling his audience, his family, and his enemies that his core was not for trade. The new generation is adopting this decisive mindset in the boardrooms, the laboratories, and the independent communities they are building away from the grid. They are realizing that you don't need to explain yourself when your results are undeniable. They are trading the frantic, nervous energy of the modern world for the slow, deliberate movement of the Duke. They are learning that explanation is a form of submission. Every time you try to justify your existence to those who have no authority over you, you are giving them the keys to your internal citadel. The Duke never gave his keys away. He kept his head down, his focus sharp, and his will unyielding. This is the Iron Duke Protocol for the modern professional. Be the result that the world cannot ignore, and let the critics talk to the silence you leave in your wake. There is a quiet, almost sacred nuance to the Duke's code that the modern world often overlooks. To never apologize is not a license to be reckless. It is an invitation to be exacting. John Wayne understood that if you aren't going to apologize for your actions, then your actions must be above reproach from the start. This is the responsibility loop that makes the Duke's philosophy so heavy and so powerful. It requires a level of premeditated integrity that most people in 2026 simply cannot handle. We live in a society of act now, apologize later, but the Duke lived by the rule of act right, stand firm. This silent will is the ultimate weapon in the information war of the 21st century. In a world that demands you show your work and justify your every thought on a public platform, the man who simply delivers the excellence and stays silent is a radical revolutionary. The Duke was a man of few words because he knew that words are the tools of the weak to hide their lack of substance. He let his work speak for him. If a project was a masterpiece, it was finished. If it was a failure, he stood by it as his own and moved to the next horizon without offering a single excuse. This stoic pragmatism is the blueprint for the sovereign architects of the new era. The new generation is discovering that this silence is a form of high-voltage power. In the digital age, everyone is shouting to be heard, but the man who remains quiet and unapologetic is the one who actually gets noticed. They are realizing that your presence is diluted every time you try to explain it. By adopting the Duke's minimalist authority, these men and women are becoming the calm eye of the storm. They are building businesses that don't rely on hype and families that don't rely on the approval of social media. They are learning that honor is found in the doing, not in the talking about the doing. This is the secret of the archive we opened in the previous chapter. The Duke's power didn't come from his fame, but from his unapologetic integration. He was a man who was whole, undivided, and true to his nature. In 2026, this level of wholeness is the ultimate luxury. It is the ability to look in the mirror at the end of the day and know that you haven't traded a single ounce of your soul for a moment of comfort. The Duke's legacy is the roadmap to this level of sovereignty, and it is paved with the refusal to let the world dictate the terms of your existence. The legacy of the man who never apologized is particularly vital as we face the new frontiers of 2026. Whether it is the frontier of decentralized finance, the exploration of space, or the rebuilding of traditional moral structures, these territories are not for the faint of heart. They require a level of grit that cannot coexist with a fragile ego or a need for constant external validation. John Wayne was a frontier psychologist who understood that nature has no ears for excuses. In the wild, if you are unprepared for the winter will kill you. If you are weak on the trail, the desert will take you. Nature does not accept apologies. The Duke applied this harsh, natural logic to the social and political world. He believed that a man should be as rugged and as honest as the landscape he inhabits. The new generation of pioneers is reclaiming this natural law. They are hardening their minds and their bodies not out of anger, but out of a deep sense of awareness. They are aware that the modern grid is a fragile construct, and that the only thing that is truly reliable is a hardened will and a clear purpose. They look at the Duke's performances, the raw, unpolished strength of Ethan Edwards or the stubborn leadership of Tom Dunson, and they see the uncompromising spirit that is necessary for the survival of the human spirit in a technological age. They are the ones who are building the parallel systems of the future, the schools, the networks, and the economies that don't rely on the permission of the old, crumbling institutions. They are the unapologetic architects of a new era, and they are carrying the Duke's fire into the cold darkness of the unknown. They understand that on the frontier, your reputation is built on what you can actually do, not on what you say you are going to do. The Duke's refusal to apologize was his way of saying that he accepted the consequences of his actions. In 2026, the concept of consequence has been hidden behind a wall of bureaucratic safety nets. But the new generation is stepping out from behind that wall. They are embracing the risk, embracing the weight, and embracing the freedom that comes with being a man of your word. They are the lone riders of the digital age, capable of navigating the global system while remaining fundamentally independent of its emotional and moral control. They don't need the crowd to tell them they are right, because they have a legend to remind them of what is true. The frontier is calling once again, and it is calling for those who have the courage to be unapologetically themselves. As we reach the conclusion of this 49th chapter, the image of John Wayne riding away into the sunset takes on a weight that transcends cinema. He isn't just leaving the screen, he is leading us into the future. He is showing us that the path of the sovereign man is always a path of strategic solitude. It is the only path that leads to true, unadulterated freedom. In the year 2026, you are faced with a choice every single time you open your eyes. You can choose to be part of the apologizing mass, constantly checking the temperature of the room before you speak, constantly adjusting your mask to fit the fashion of the minute, and constantly shrinking your soul to fit the expectations of the week. Or you can choose to be like the Duke. You can choose to stand by your principles with the weight of a mountain. You can choose to act with an integrity that is so complete it leaves no room for regret. You can choose to be the man who never apologizes because he never betrays himself. The torch of the unapologetic life is now firmly in your hands. You are the new generation that must carry this fire into the storms ahead. Do not be afraid of the critics. They are merely the echoes of a dying era. Do not be afraid of the silence. It is where the strong prepare for battle. Be the man that others look to when the world is in chaos and the maps have failed. Be the one who says, with the calm authority of a man who knows his worth, I have made my choice, and I stand by it. The legend of John Wayne is not a dusty memory of a bygone century. It is a prophecy for the one we are living in. It is the story of the man who refused to be broken by the shifting winds, the man who refused to be silenced by the noise of the masses, and the man who refused to apologize for being exactly who he was created to be. This is the end of the 49th chapter, but it is the beginning of your sovereign reign over your own life. The world doesn't need more apologies. It needs more men who are willing to stand for something real. Stay heavy, stay silent, stay unapologetic. The ride is far from over, and the frontier is waiting for your boots to hit the ground. Carry the Duke's spirit in your blood and his code in your heart. The future belongs to the unbreakable, and you are the architect of what comes next. Stand tall, speak slow, and never, ever back down from a fight that is worth winning. The Duke is gone, but the standards he set are eternal, and they are now your responsibility to uphold. This is Andrew, signing off from the frontier of the soul. The trail is waiting for you at the next horizon. We will see you there, where the sun never sets on a man of honor. The chapter is closed, but the rider is ready. Go forth and conquer.